This episode of Truth Table is brought to you by our NAACP Image Award nominated book, Truth Table, Black Women's Musings on Life, Love, and Liberation. Get it where all books are sold.
Sisters, how y'all feel? Brothers, y'all all right? If this is your first time at Truth Table, welcome to the table. And if you've been sitting at the table with us all these years, we are so grateful that you have been listening to us through these years, and we are inviting you to partner with us and support our work at patreon.com/truthstable. Now pull up a chair and have a seat at the table with us. Hey y'all, welcome to Truth Table, Midwives of Culture for Grace and Truth. I'm Ekemini.
And I'm Christina.
This table is built by Black women and for Black women. So welcome to the table, C. How you doing, girl?
You know, I'm doing okay. I feel like we are moving into spring. You know, we are meteorologists. We do
That's true.
We do often talk about the weather because it matters.
That's
the
right.
sun and the temperature matters to us. And so anyway, I feel like I can see spring coming. I feel like it is on the horizon. How are you doing?
You can see clearly now the rain is gone.
Listen,
it's actually not gone. It's actually raining now.
No, it's definitely all about it. We're definitely going to have those April showers for sure.
Yes, absolutely. But they're going to bring the May flowers.
That's what they say.
And
Somebody
the allergies.
Yes.
I'm starting to feel the allergies. That's how I know spring is coming. I'm like, oh no.
Oh yeah.
And I do not like winter, but I'm also like not quite ready. Like I told you the other day, I was like, I feel like I didn't hibernate enough in winter. I feel like I was moving a little too much. I was like, wait a minute, I didn't get my hibernation.
That's because January came in like a roaring lion. January has been a problem. 2024 is strong. It's a strongly stated year. It's aggressive. It's a highly opinionated year. So
it's a lot going on. It's a lot going on. So anyway, but we are glad to be at the table, y'all. Yeah. So what is on the table is that it's a mailbag episode.
Yes, flashback. Come on now.
And we did not get to do one last season. So we owe y'all. So I'm excited. We got a whole lot of questions in our mailbag.
Yes, we do.
Magical bowl. So we will just pull and answer.
Listen, that's for sure. Yeah. And shout out to Tabitha Brown, because I'm pretty sure this bowl is from her collection that I do like. I do like to
her Target collection. Her Target collection.
Yes.
Sweet.
I'm pretty sure it is. So anyway, it's lovely. I like the color blue.
Shout out to Tabitha. I get the bag brown.
I think she's a role model probably for many things, but I'm gonna tell you, she know about that branding.
She does.
It's a thing. The people who are into that, they know.
Teach us, Tabitha.
or donate. I'll take out. I mean, you can teach me if you got that, or you can support our ministry, whichever one you feel comfortable doing. So yeah. So are you up for a question?
Yeah. Let me pull it. Woohoo! Let's see.
Dun 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 dun.
Okay. Wow, we're starting off strong here.
Okay. I told you 2024 is strong.
Woo, all right. How do you navigate adult friendships in the midst of life transition? So marriage, divorce, switching churches, switching belief systems. How do you, now this may need to be a topic on the show, but
that feels like a whole topic.
Yeah, we could at least try to, give a little something now. How do you navigate? Yeah, sprinkle a little something. How do you navigate adult friendships in the midst of life transitions?
Yeah, I'm assuming that question means how do you? The friend is the one that's in transition.
Yeah,
but
maybe. I don't know.
But I feel like there's a need to create some handles on that.
Somebody's in transition. Yeah.
So I'm going to give those handles. How about that? I'm going to give those handles. I think that long-term friendships have transitions. And I think the first way, I'll just say this before we even think about doing a whole show topic, is that we should anticipate that. I think part of why we have frustration or angst is because we think that things are always going to stay the same, and they don't.
I know.
People change, life circumstances change, the governments change, like stuff happens, right? So I think first of all, being grateful for what friendships are at the moment, like in a mindful way, like being mindfully present in your friendship, but also not holding the friendship hostage to always be the same thing, because life changes and people change too. And I would say that if it's the friend that's in transition, I think one of the gift that we can give to a friend who is in transition, especially if it's a painful transition, is that we can represent kindness and stability. And so with the expectation that they're going to be up and down because they're going through a change. They're going through a change. But I think that our love, our attention, our text messages, our calls, I think we can represent stability to them. And I think in that sense, we are in some ways maybe reminding them of the stability of God. Obviously, we're highly imperfect. But I think if we can be stable, if we can be steady, they don't have to worry about us flipping out, us being inconsistent. Mm-hmm. I think that's a gift to a friend that's in deep transition, especially if it's something that they didn't have on their bingo card, right? If it's something that's difficult. So
that's right.
What do you think about that?
I think that the long-term friendships or transitions, I think it's hard, right? Because we are, as human beings, we're actually averse to change. Mm-hmm. We like stability. We like consistency. We like things to stay the same. But that's just not life. You know, as you said, it is filled with swift transition, as the old adage goes. But, and I think that we have to allow space and grace to grieve those changes. And whether they be positive or negative, honestly, somebody getting married, hopefully in a healthy marriage, that's a good thing. Yeah. But you grieve, the loss of, the connectivity you always had, the constancy of that person always being there, that you could easily call them and text them and, oh, you gonna come over? I'm coming over. That changes. That just changes. People are in denial about that, but it changes. For sure.
And it should. Yeah, it should. As people invest in another part of their life.
That's right. And that's across gender. So it doesn't really matter if it's your good girlfriend or your good guy friend or your cousin even. Yeah. These things, they do shift. And I think there is a grief and a loss there that I think sometimes makes it hard to navigate these transitions when we don't acknowledge that. Mm-hmm. And we don't, and we try to, when we're in denial, about that grief, and about that loss. And I do think we need to have grace and empathy for people that are in transition. And hopefully it's not a toxic friendship and you're not having, where you're not being maligned or harmed, by the friend, but where you just see that the person, has changed or they're navigating grief. Grief changes you. Right. Significant losses in your life change you. I'm not the same person that I was when my dad was alive versus now that he's not alive. My dad's been gone for over 20 years, that those types of losses change you. Irrevocably, but we're grateful for friends, that are with you and can navigate, that will walk with you through that. But then there are seasons where there are people that are meant to be in your lives for just a moment, for a blip on the radar screen. For sure. And then they're not. And you're like, man, something changed. And sometimes nothing happened. Like there's not a transition point where you're like, this person said this. And so we're not friends no more. Sometimes that happens. Sometimes
it is a reality TV show.
Right. But then sometimes it's just this person moved away or this person is just different, or we have political differences or I don't know. There's a whole gamut of how some things can change and there's no love loss or any beef. It's just, we don't talk as much anymore. But when I see you, it's still love. It's good to see you. Catch up. Yeah. How are the kids? I've navigated all types of those types of transitions, in my adult friendships. And they were just unspoken. It wasn't as if we need to say, we're not close anymore. We don't, talk anymore. But it's like, I still love you. If I'm in your town, we're going to connect. Yeah. And I think that's hard though. So for some people that really have a hard time, that don't hold a loose hand with some things, I think can have a harder time with a transition like that.
So, I think so too. Yeah. And I think, clarity is kind. And I do think that some of those things can just happen where it's just people not kind of naturally fall into different ways of being with each other. But, there's also room for a conversation too, to say like, hey, we don't connect as much. Are you cool? I'm cool. Are you cool with that? I think there's a place for those clarifying conversations, but also, friendships can kind of ebb and flow. Like there are people who I've known for, 30 years, 20 years. And we literally may have a decade of not connecting very frequently. Exactly. And then based on relocation or a life event, we're connecting consistently. I can think about in the case of maybe even having, a sorority sister who I may not have been in touch with, but then there's
a sorority. Well,
yes, there are secret societies, by the way. We'll talk about them. But you get my point. Anyway, it's a thing.
We're going to be talking to see.
It gets into the people's feelings for sure. But, and sometimes for very good reasons. But then, a tragedy hits.
Yeah.
You know, someone passes away, and again, I think about a really good friend from college who died unexpectedly. And we were rocked and devastated. I consider it kind of pivotal in the shaping of my adult personality, having had a few friends die as young women. And then we went back to that funeral, and then I reconnected with people who were there. And so I think in some ways in that moment, it became, I see you, you see me, and we will make sure that each other is okay. And it's almost like in a way to honor the person who passed away. It is very clarifying. Yes. So absolutely. So I think that might be worth maybe a deeper conversation.
I think so.
Since I know people love to hear us talk about friendships and all that kind of stuff. So maybe we'll maybe extend that out later. But I'm going to grab another question.
Grab it.
And let's see what's on this card. Let me move around. Let me move around like the
getting nervous.
Like the lotto. Okay. The lottery. So we've gone from something very heavy, to something it could be heavy depending. I hear the buzzing bees. The buzzing bees are coming. Not the beehive. Okay, God bless you if you're one of them. Okay, is Beyonce a country singer?
I really don't feel like I'm qualified to answer this question. So let me put up.
You ain't got no opinion.
I am not. I'm sorry. I am actually not a country music fan.
Ooh, watch out.
That's me.
You in Nashville right now.
I know. I'm just.
Watch out.
I'm not trying to speak for all Californians. I'm just saying I am a Californian.
Yeah.
Okay. So
I wouldn't associate that
I'm not saying there are not Black Californians that like country. I just happen not to be one of them.
That's right.
Not speaking for all the Black Californians.
And there's grace for that.
That's all. Don't come for me. So I really feel like I can't really, I don't know the genre enough to go, this country, that ain't. Now, when I heard the songs, I listened to Texas Hold'em and I listened to 16 Carriages. And I listened to it.
I keep calling it 16 Candles. I keep calling
not 16 Candles.
I do, because that's the one
we need to talk about some classic childhood.
I mean,
we have done that. We need to revisit
to Molly.
But I listened to them. Mm-hmm. And now, again, I'm not versed on country. I'm not gonna lie. But I was like, okay, it sounds like Beyonce on a pseudo country R&B song. I don't know. It didn't really, it was not giving country to me, but I don't know. I mean, I don't know the genre. So don't be coming to me. Okay.
Yeah.
Listen, because if you knock, I do buck. Okay. Listen, I'm not scared of the beehive.
I might be.
I am not scared of the beehive.
I don't want any drama today.
I don't know. So it's not really my jam. So I'm not going to be, it's not the album. I'm not going to be listening to the album.
Yeah.
So, but I don't know. Do you think so?
Okay, so let me give this disclaimer. Make your money, Beyonce. I remember the rapper Ice-T. He was being interviewed once. I don't know why this always comes back to my memory, but anyway, he was being interviewed once about being an actor.
Oh, okay.
And he kind of gave this disclaimer, and again, I'm not saying Beyonce is a pimp. But he said that. So let me give you that caveat. But he said that he is a pimp, and by that he didn't mean like the selling exploitation of women. He meant like a hustler. He works the system, right? Mm-hmm. And he was like, I'm pimping this acting thing. Like I'm pimping this rap thing. In other words, like I'm making a hustle. And he actually was saying that in a bit of like a noble way. Like, this is the cards I've been dealt, or this is what I can try to navigate in, and I'm going to do that. So there's a sense of me which feels like, Beyonce just, she has the ability to do many different things.
Yeah.
Not just because of her own kind of talent, but also because of her resources. Hello. She's a billionaire. And so, if she's like, what I think I want to do? I think I want to have a country album. I'm going to do that. And who's going to stop her? So part of me feels like, if that's what you want to do, knock yourself out. Now, whether or not I think of her as a person who is a country singer, no, of course not. I don't think of her as a country singer. No, of course not. And I do think that people in that industry probably are like, okay. I mean, some of them are just flat out racist. That's a whole nother conversation. That's a whole nother conversation.
No doubt about that.
But from what I've been told, that some of the Black music artists, country artists, their streams have all gone up because Beyonce's song has come out. Yeah. And so it's made people go like, well, there are Black country singers.
Many of them.
So let me check them out. Let me do a comparison. Maybe let me give them some shine because they've been at this for a while, right?
Yeah, so that's good.
So is Beyonce a country singer? Is she country?
She's country.
I think of her as kind of having like
can't take that away from her. She's country.
I think of her as kind of having that kind of cultural lens. And her mom would go hard for her. Miss Tina go hard for her.
They grew up going to the rodeo. I mean, they're Texans. I mean, they're
Texans. Mm-hmm. But what I really think she is a creative capitalist, and that's that.
That's right. Yeah.
Next question.
But I mean, black capitalism, it doesn't save you. It doesn't protect you. From racism. So
no, it does not. It does not, and she should not be experiencing that. But it is what it is.
It is America. So,
next question.
Before we even go to the next question, let's take a quick commercial break.
Yes,
and then when we come back,
and for the beehive to do their deep breathing.
Do your breaths. Yes. So don't go nowhere. We'll be right back after this commercial.
Our NAACP Image Award nominated book, Truth Table, Black Women's Musings on Life, Love, and Liberation, is making waves and shifting culture. I closed this book feeling like I had just partaken in a multi-course meal, filled with grace and the courage to carry on. And I believe you'll finish this book feeling the same way. Morgan Harper Nichols, artist and poet. Buy Truth Table, Black Women's Musings on Life, Love, and Liberation at our website or wherever books are sold.
And we are back, y'all. And we have been going through our mailbag questions. Let me tell y'all something. Y'all give us the kind of questions that could get us into trouble. But hopefully it's good trouble, okay?
That's right.
And so we're up for another question. Ekemini, what you got for us?
Let's pull it. Oh, boy. Okay. What advice do you have for single women seeking to date?
Because that's not a big topic.
That's a very easy thing. What advice do you have for single women seeking to date?
Okay, why don't you start us off?
Oh, okay. So, the MVP of singleness, So my advice in 2024 is to go hard after your healing. That's what I think that we all got to be very serious, about making sure that we are healed and whole.
That's right.
As healed and whole as one can be on this side in 2024. So if you have resources to do therapy, please do therapy. I recommend it for everybody. And you can actually access therapy, honestly, at different socioeconomic statuses. Even if you're on Medicaid, you can actually access therapy. So look into your state and see what, what's available to you. If you don't have insurance coverage, of course, that's another, dilemma. But there are a lot of programs actually out there for Black and Brown folk that are seeking to get into therapy. So there's a lot more resources than there were even, 5-10 years ago. So that's a good thing. So I always advise people to get into therapy. It's been life-changing for me. And if you can't go that route at the moment, then I would always have people around you, mentors, if you can. I know that can be, those can be hard to find too, unfortunately. But if you can find somebody that loves you, respects you, is honorable to you, but will tell you the truth. You need people that are going to tell you the truth. Because oftentimes we have a hard time seeing ourselves. Okay. And so we need people on the outside that could tell us, about how we come off, how we're approaching a situation. I'm the type of person that I approach my dating. I'm very open, with people that I trust in my life to be like, not divulging every little detail, but just trying to go, is this right? Am I responding correctly? I just want to always make sure.
Am I tripping?
Am I tripping? Really? Am I tripping?
Because we
be tripping. We is I. And so I want to make
all
sure,
the humans for sure.
that I'm approaching it correctly. I'm always trying to get additional advice, sound advice, so that I can show up as my best self. For whoever I may encounter in these dating streets. So that is my advice, honestly, is to really go after your healing and get accountability from trusted advisors. So, what about you?
I think that's good wisdom. And I would just add that we just have to be honest about the state of the streets.
Yeah.
The streets are toe up. It's almost like there's been a snowfall and they're all dug up with potholes. And so I think that even when people are giving advice, particularly to single Black women, they need to be mindful of the reality of what the dating scene looks like, or else they will be quite insensitive and unrealistic in what they're sharing. I will say this, that even as we look at the data, which isn't very optimistic, that I think even with holding that in mind, I often tell people, I've said this to you, that love is a risk.
Yes.
That the only love that we have that is not risky is the love that God extends to us. Right. And it is in being held by the love of God that we can take other love risks, like loving our neighbor, even loving our children is risky. Parents can pour out, but you have no guarantees that your child will return that love to you. Yep. And so we have to give love in a way that is not an expectation of reciprocity. And dating is very similar to this. It's risky business, right? I think there are ways that people can approach dating that makes it safer and wiser. But at the end of the day, people change. People change it up on you. People don't always reveal their motives. And sometimes people don't even know their own motives, right? So the level of self-awareness that you have to have in maturity, I think, to engage dating is important. And then the last thing I would say is, I think people have to kind of, as best they can, again, in light of the streets being a mess with potholes, I think they have to set themselves up for environments that are conducive to meeting and connecting with people who are like-minded.
That's right.
And so, whether that's, going back for homecoming or whether that's, being a part of, local hiking groups and volunteer ministries. And so if you have in your mind, again, you should serve because you want to serve.
YMCA.
Absolutely. You should serve because you want to serve. But if you're looking for a certain type of person, right? So if you're a Black woman who's looking for a Black man who has particular values, you're going to have to put yourself in proximity to those spaces, figuring out what that is. And we know that, online dating is the biggest draw right now, for the good and bad and for the ugly of it all. But also still on that list is church, religious spaces, as well as connections from friends. So I would say, again, be mindful that it is risky. Be good to yourself. Be kind to yourself. Know the reality of what you're up against. And then also get yourself in proximity as best you can to the spaces that may have the kind of people that might have the kind of people in it that you would be interested in dating. That is Dr. Edmondson's dating advice, and I have not dated in a very long time.
Right. Yes. Well, I have divested from the online dating streets.
And I wonder why.
I had to divest. It was too toxic for me.
I wonder why.
I have not divested from the possibilities.
Listen. Amen. Amen.
But that's okay. We need peace.
Yeah. Are you ready?
Yeah.
Okay. The next question, y'all.
Okay. All right.
Oh, interesting. Okay. I'm going to try. Okay. How do you handle social political things that don't fit your theological lens or frame?
Oh, okay.
I think that might be a question of how we navigate politics that may be opposed to maybe religious conviction. I don't know. That's my summarization of what that could possibly mean. But pick what you think it means and then answer what you think it means.
Yeah, I guess, how do you navigate, I guess maybe, connectivity with people who have maybe fall in different places, political, socio-political issues, maybe even theological issues. I mean, I would probably throw that.
They're so interconnected.
For sure. So I think that, for me and my work, I interface with a lot of people from different faith traditions, different backgrounds, different genders, just everything, different social locations completely. And so for me, I just really try to uphold our commonality, which is our common humanity. I try to uphold and honor common grace, which holds that all people are made in the image of God, and that they can do good works, even if they themselves are not yet believers. For sure. And so I try to honor the good that people are doing, and I try to align, on things that we align on, and then where there's points of divergence and there's points of divergence, but I think that we can still be civil, and I don't mean that in whatever, but civil, respectful, and honorable, to our neighbors, and I think that's what love necessitates. And so Yeah, I don't know. I don't always have to be in close fellowship, with people with who I completely disagree with.
Right.
But I might be in close fellowship with some people, that I disagree with, and that's okay, but I think that we have to try to be winsome. I think winsomeness should be a characteristic of Christians. And so where we can agree, we ought to try to continue to walk down the path if we can.
Yeah.
So what about you, Christina? How do you?
Yeah, I mean, I would agree with ditto to what you said. And I think, and likewise, I think maybe because I was trained as a psychologist.
Yep, right.
And part of my training, and by the way, I'm not that old, but I feel like I'm old in the world of psychology and therapy because people have shifted some perspectives.
So much, yeah.
And so I was trained in a space where, and I don't mean this like in a self-denigrating way, but I was not the person that was getting therapy. So I needed to be small, right?
That's right.
And I needed to make space for that person to share their story, their journey, their fears, their whatever. And so I had opinions about everything that people were saying.
Right.
But, if you're a therapist, at least under my school of training, that room is really not first and foremost about me, and one of my old supervisors taught us, God rest her soul, that she's like, whoever's doing the most talking, that's the client. And so that created in us a particular discipline about being able to hear other people. And I think that training probably has gone into other areas of my work. So whether I was, if I was teaching or if I'm consulting on something, I'm still thinking about that. And I'm also trying to grant people, as a part of winsomeness, the space to tell their story, to be themselves. And it doesn't have to be my story. And I think when we are uncomfortable with who we are, and all of us struggle with our layers of insecurity, right? And so, but the more uncomfortable we are, the more we demand other people agree with us or be like us.
That's right.
And I don't expect for people to be like me,
That's
right?
That's right.
And so I think there's a freedom in just having some self-peace, some internal peace. And so you don't need other people to confirm or affirm what you think or believe because you're secure in that. And I have found that the more insecure I am, the more I'm seeking affirmation.
Agrees with me.
Agree with me, as the song says, right? But yeah, so I think again, everything is an opportunity to be a mirror for us to look at ourselves, to think about, okay, what's up with me in this situation? Am I demanding that people think like I think when they haven't had the story that I had? They haven't had the experience that I've had. They don't come from the family that I come from. They didn't grow up where I grew up. And so I think sometimes we want people to have an agreement that only comes from experience, an experience that they haven't even had yet. So
yeah, that's good. That's good. Hope we answered your question, y'all.
Well, we tried. Back to the bowl, back to the tab
I'm
bowl.
gonna go to the weighty one.
Oh my goodness. Listen, I'm glad you're reading.
Because I was the one that I was like, well, you know what? I had to transfer from email to this paper. So
there you go.
So
very technical.
I had a situation. My husband and I are at odds because the church we attend, he grew up in this church 20 years deep, okay?
Wow.
Teaches the prosperity gospel and word of faith gospel. There is blind loyalty to the pastor, no financial transparency or accountability. My husband sees the issues, but still won't leave. Would it be wrong? And they have children. Would it be wrong to just walk away and join another church? And she's been wanting to leave since 2020.
Yeah.
So,
well, you start answering that because I answered last.
What? Oh Lord.
I do have thoughts.
It's tough. I'm not married. I've never been married. So I don't, I think obviously it's not ideal to have to go to a different church from your spouse. I know that there are couples that do, and that are brought to that point where they just have to do that and their marriage is still intact and it's fine, it works out. But I think this is a really tough. I have a lot of empathy, for her and the husband too, because he was raised in this church environment, that in that way and shaped and formed by that. But yeah, I think it's tough. It's tough. I don't even know, honestly. I would say pray. That's my advice is to pray, is to really, really pray and seek the Lord and see what the Holy Spirit might reveal to you about whether you're to stay there and to suffer long, or if you are meant to move and pitch your tent at another church, which I know is not easy to do. It's not easy to find a good, healthy church, but they do exist and they are out there. So I wish I had a definitive answer, but I am trying to also acknowledge my own limitations in that I don't know. I'm not a married woman. And so my single body, like, I'm out, but it's just me, so, but you have to,
there's very folks that got I'm out spirit too.
That's true. You got to consider the children. You do have to consider the spouse. I don't know. That is a tough one. It sounds like she has a level of maturity though, to where she can somewhat continue to maybe, persevere in that space. But I don't know. I'm not a proponent of people staying in toxic church spaces. I'm really not. Because it can malform our own faith experience and our own perception of God. So I don't know. What do you say, Christina?
I mean, different people have different relationships with their church, right? And some people, their church or one of the churches they've been to is just kind of like, this is my drop-in spot. Like I just, they're not super connected to people. It sounds like this is almost like a family for her husband. And so I think it might be helpful to think of it that way, to think about what it would mean to separate yourself from a family of origin where there's someone in it that could be abusive. That's right. And that level of loss and the ways in which people are manipulated, right, and shaped in order to stay in toxic faith settings or toxic families. So I think developing some empathy around that could be helpful. I think it's a good thing that her spouse is saying, yeah, you're not tripping. Like, I think it would be actually much worse if they were like, whatever do you mean? Like, you're in disobedience. You should align with what, this good teaching. So I don't think she's being kind of gaslit. So I think that's helpful too. So I think what I would recommend is that they probably have some type of mediator or counselor that helps them to get at his loyalty to that space. Because it sounds like he's in agreement with her, but not moving.
Yeah, but it's so afraid to make the move.
Exactly. Yeah. And then I would say one of the things that she can do, whether she feels compelled to just flat out go and put her membership somewhere else, it's possible she may feel so convicted that she needs to do that. But what she could do now is that nothing would stop her from connecting with another ministry where she feels like it's much healthier and more vibrant and safer for her. And so I think if we stay in a toxic situation for a long time, it distorts our imagination, right?
Yeah.
And so that I think she can do without any kind of sense of feeling like I'm leaving this person or I'm breaching some kind of union contract that they have.
So in addition to that, a supplement.
Yeah.
I wonder if she might also benefit. I'm just thinking now, about what if she were to kind of set a deadline. And I don't mean it in an ultimatum type of way, but like, okay, by April 30th or 31st, I don't know if we got 31 in April this year. I don't know. But anyway, whatever the deadline.
It's all a blur.
Whatever, by the end of April, I'm starting the church, and I wonder if that might actually, make the husband go, you know what? Yeah.
People do function that way in relationships. They do gentle as well as firm ultimatums. And that's what that sounds like. It sounds like, this whatever you do, this is what I'm going to do in this day. And I would say that there are some matters where I feel like that's highly warranted, right? That people need to have, they need to love themselves in order to be able to even love their spouse. So they need to do some boundary setting. But I think I'm inclined, again, not knowing all the backdrop.
Yeah, we don't know everything.
Yeah, is to say, because they are actually in agreement. So it's important for people to seek where they agree. Yeah. Like to never lose sight of where there is agreement is where they can walk together. And I would say where they disagree is what then should be done with this realization that this place is not healthy.
That's right. Yeah.
And so it would be much harder, I think, to convince someone like that thinks it's not, that it is healthy.
It's hard. Yeah.
That is unhealthy. So I think they're actually a little bit closer to a resolution than it might even seem, because there's some agreement.
Yeah.
And then again, I think they need to find someone, a counselor or whoever, a source of wisdom that helps them to walk through what their actions need to look like in light of knowing that's an unhealthy space.
Yeah, yeah.
Now, again, if we're talking about, there's a difference between being like, I think this theology is a little loosey-goosey. Or, right. Or I wish they were more transparent in showing the budgets. Like there are certain churches, I've been to churches where we physically show people the budgets. That's actually unusual.
That's
unusual. And it didn't have to be, but that is an unusual thing, right? People get real weird about money, but if you have a church culture that's like, let's just talk about budgets, let's be transparent. But so that's just not completely uncommon.
Mm-hmm.
But I think it'll be important for them to have a conversation, potentially mediated by somebody who's wise or a counselor, about what makes the church unsafe and what they're showing their children by being in that space too. Yep. And when they need to go. I mean, we live, I'm assuming this came from in the US. There are so many churches.
There are a lot of churches.
I mean, that doesn't make it easy to find one, but there really are a lot of different churches. And so, again, my guess is that he's connected to this ministry almost like family. And that's why he won't just move on. But I also think it is a good thing that he agrees that there's a problem.
Yeah. You're right. All right.
Tell us how it works out, y'all.
Yeah, please let us know. Your turn to grab a question.
Okay. Are we nearing the end of our question time? Are we nearing the end?
Maybe.
Okay. Ekemini.
What?
How do you hold on to hope in hard times? This could be a good conclusion.
Yeah. Oh yeah, we did do a hope.
This could be a good conclusion question for us.
We did do a hope. We did last season. We did still holding on. Or something like that. How do I hold on to hope? These are some perilous times. So by looking to Jesus through prayer, through I think fellowship with other mature, I'd say, Christians who I can be just honest with and be like, "Whoo, Lord!" But you know what? God's got it all. Like seriously, I think I don't know. I think I would have a hard time navigating these times if I was not a Christian. Because I would really be without hope because y'all, it's falling apart out here. But what really helps me to know is that is it also reading the word, and so that in some ways the word really does prepare us for what to expect in these last days. And even though we see it and we read it, it's still hard to live through it. I mean, I think I pray about this all the time. I'm like, Lord, we know that you said it was going to be like this. And you told us what to expect. And the heart of many will wax cold. And people, it just...
Listen, they are waxing cold.
It's waxing cold. Strife and prone to fits of rage. All the time. We see it all. Yeah. But it's still hard to witness. Even though we read it, it's still hard to live through it, right? Yeah. It's still hard to see it. It's still hard to see the exposure, of so many different people and to navigate that and see like, oh my gosh. But I hold on to hope by knowing that hope is holding on to me. And realizing that hope is a person, the Lord Jesus Christ. Because apart from him, I would absolutely be hopeless for sure. Because I have a very, I'm not wired toward optimism. I'm much more of a pessimistic, realistic, type of person just in my nature. And so, I think he truly is the source, of my hope. And the way I cultivate that hope is through spiritual disciplines like prayer and reading the word, and fellowshipping with the saints. That means going to church as well. So that's huge for me. How about you?
Yeah, I would say ditto to everything you said. And I would also say that we have to also guard our heart. We have to guard our imaginations. And that doesn't mean like live in denial. Like I was talking to somebody recently. They were like, I don't know what's going on in the world because I don't watch the news. I'm like, oh, okay. I'm not saying you need to watch it 24 hours a day because that's not good either. But we do need to be aware of what's happening. But I empathize. I understand. I empathize with the boundary setting because we actually are going to have some boundary setting in order to stay healthy.
That's right.
And to stay hopeful. That's and if we're only taking in that which is toxic in this doomsday, then we're missing an opportunity to lift up our eyes to the hills where our help comes from, right? And so the Lord knows that we're going to look at what is in front of us.
That's right.
Right? But we're reminded through scripture to also don't forget to look up. Amen. Don't forget to look up. And I think that's a concrete way in which we are able to continue to have hope in hard times, is that we do look out and see what really is, but we also don't forget to look up where our help comes from.
That's right. No, that is good. That is a good question. So we did actually have one more from a fellow podcaster.
Oh,
who did ask us. I didn't think we could end on this. She did ask us about. Because we can do another mail. We've done it. We've had a season where we've had a couple of mailbags, but let me find that question.
Dun, dun,
Where is
dun,
that question?
dun.
Yes. Okay, good. We can answer this one quickly. And this will be our last one. How can I start making steps to monetize my podcast? What can we do? Very practical.
She's trying to make that money.
Listen, she is. I understand, sister.
Bills needeth to be paideth.
Yes.
Yes. So a couple of things I would just well, one, if your podcast is your business, then you need to say that to yourself.
Yeah,
like,
true, yeah.
like what is your podcast to you, right? Some people, their podcast is their hobby. Some people, it is their ministry, their pro bono ministry. Some people, it's a business for them. And I think we have to be honest about what we want something to be and what something is, so that we can create the right strategy around it, the right business plan around it. And so if they're landing the plane and saying this is a business opportunity for me, then I would say your business opportunity needs to have a business plan along with it. And I think you need to get people who are in agreement with you about that, right? Who want to support your venture. And the way a lot of podcasts do this is through using something like Patreon.
That's right.
They get patrons to support them. And we appeal to the generosity of the patrons. Okay.
We're grateful for our patrons. We really are.
Listen, some have been rolling for years. Thank you very much. And so that is
we welcome more of you.
Yeah. Hello. Come on. Hello. Thank you. So yes, I would say that's a pretty common one, is for people to utilize Patreon and I think the cool thing about the Patreon experience is that even though we are the creators and we're doing the work, we're doing this in community. If you're a patron, you will feel the sense that we're a part of this community project together. And not only do we need your resources, in our case, we need your prayers. We also need your creative ideas like Mailbag. And we need your participation along the way. So that was my first thing. Get yourself a business plan if it's really a business.
Yes, that's right.
And utilize something like Patreon. And y'all don't forget to support Truth Table on Patreon.
Yes. Okay. Patreon.com/truthstable. But yes, make sure that if it is truly a business, that you sign up and register as a business.
right. Yes.
Get your tax documents in order, y'all. Because Uncle Sam gonna come for his taxes, and Jesus pay taxes, y'all. Jesus did while he was here on earth.
Well,
all right.
Well.
And so that's very important to remember that. So yeah, I would say that, and then Patreon and Truth Table. Truthfully, we didn't monetize until. We've been around for a long time now, but we didn't monetize until we were 2 years in.
Maybe even really in some ways longer than that.
Yeah, about 2 years into our show. So I'm not suggesting that's what you do. I'm just letting you know that it's been a learning curve and a learning process for us too. But Patreon is huge for us. It's very, very helpful for us. So maybe that would be a good opportunity for you. So anyway.
Yeah.
Thank you for doing we haven't done Mailbag yet.
I know. Listen,
and we still have some more questions. So
send in your questions.
Yeah, send in your questions, please. And then we will and let us know if you want to be anonymous or you want us to say your name and your city. And we're happy to do that. And we will do another Mailbag episode this season, because we still got a few good ones in there to questions to answer. So of course, we want to thank y'all for taking a seat at the table with us. Truth Table. Let's keep the conversation going. Send us your questions via Please. DM or at asktruthstable@gmail.com. Don't forget to rate and review the show on iTunes and subscribe on your favorite podcast player. Black Women. Truth Table has a Black Women's Facebook discipleship group. So answer all of the questions to get into the group, and we would love to commune and hang with you. So thank you so much for taking a seat at the table with us today, and we'll see you on the next Truth Table. Bye, y'all.